The early morning light streamed through the kitchen windows of the Copper Fork, my small but thriving restaurant nestled in the heart of Maplewood Estates. The air carried the scent of freshly brewed coffee, sizzling bacon, and warm, buttery croissants. I had spent years building this place from the ground up, pouring every ounce of passion and energy into crafting a menu that blended traditional flavors with modern twists. I was in the middle of kneading dough for the day's bread when my manager, Carla, rushed into the kitchen, her face red with frustration. "You need to see this," she huffed, waving a crisp white envelope in the air. HOA sent another notice. My stomach twisted. The Maplewood Homeowners Association had been a thorn in my side ever since I moved here. They had a rule for everything: grass height, mailbox color, even the direction your car faced in the driveway. But why would they be sending something to my restaurant? I wiped my hands on my apron and took the letter. "Dear Mr. Hayes, it has come to our attention that you are operating a business in a residential area which is in direct violation of HOA regulations. We kindly request that you cease all restaurant operations immediately to avoid further action. Failure to comply will result in penalties. Sincerely, the Maplewood Estates HOA Board." I chuckled, half in disbelief, half in exasperation. They think I'm running an illegal business? I own this building. Carla smirked. I'd love to see their faces when they realize that. Little did we know, the HOA wasn't going to back down so easily. Later that afternoon, I decided to confront whoever was responsible for the notice. I walked into the HOA office, a sleek, glass-paneled building that felt more like a law firm than a neighborhood committee headquarters. Behind a mahogany desk sat Margaret Davenport, the self-appointed dictator of Maplewood Estates. She was a woman in her late 50s with an iron-pressed suit, a pearl necklace, and a face that looked like it hadn't smiled in years. "Mr. Hayes," she said in a clipped tone, "I assume you hear about the letter." "That would be correct. There's a slight problem with your complaint. My restaurant isn't in a residential area. It's in the commercial zone." Margaret pursed her lips. "That may be, but the Copper Fork is attracting excessive traffic. The increased noise, parking congestion, and general disturbance violate the tranquility of our neighborhood." I raised an eyebrow. This restaurant was here before half of the houses were even built. You knew what you were getting into. "The HOA has the right to maintain peace in our community," she snapped. "And if we decide something is a nuisance, we will act accordingly. With all due respect, you have no authority over a commercial business. You can't just shut me down." She smirked. "We'll see about that." Within a week, strange things started happening. A parking ordinance was suddenly enacted, limiting the number of cars that could park near my restaurant. My garbage pickups were mysteriously delayed. Noise complaints started piling up, even though my restaurant closed before 10 p.m. every night. A health inspector showed up unannounced, citing anonymous complaints. "This is a coordinated attack," Carla fumed as we sorted through the endless paperwork. "They're trying to strangle us with regulations." I refused to give in. I called a lawyer, Mr. Jonathan Blake, who assured me that the HOA had no jurisdiction over my property. But Margaret wasn't done yet. The Maplewood HOA scheduled a public hearing to address the issue of my restaurant. The meeting hall was packed, not just with HOA members but also with my loyal customers, employees, and even local news reporters. Margaret stood at the podium, voice dripping with authority. "Mr. Hayes' establishment has disrupted the peace of Maplewood Estates. It has caused traffic congestion, unbearable noise, and disorder. We propose that the Copper Fork be shut down or relocated." Boos erupted from the crowd. I stepped up to the microphone, clearing my throat. "I appreciate your concerns, but let's get something straight. The Copper Fork has been here longer than this HOA even existed. My business is in full compliance with city laws. The only disruption here is the petty overreach of this committee." Margaret's face turned red. "The HOA has every right to protect its interests." "So do I." I countered. "And if this harassment continues, I won't hesitate to file a lawsuit for unlawful interference with my business." The crowd erupted in cheers. Even a few HOA members looked uneasy. That night, the news ran a segment on small business versus overreaching HOA. Public opinion was on my side, and Margaret knew she had lost. A week later, I received a formal apology letter from the HOA. Margaret had been removed as president, and all frivolous complaints against the Copper Fork were dropped. Carla grinned as she handed me a celebratory espresso. "Looks like we won." I took a sip, savoring the moment. Not just us. The whole community won. To my surprise, a few months later, the new HOA president approached me. They wanted to collaborate, not fight. The Copper Fork began hosting community events, charity nights, and local farmers markets. Margaret? She moved out of town, unable to bear the embarrassment of her public loss. And me? I kept running my restaurant, now more successful than ever. Because the best revenge is living well.